Hey, we're live. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in to the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty, and we're here to talk Mandalorian Monday. And this is season 2, episode 6, called The Tragedy. I've just been referring to it to motherfucking shit. Did you see that?
So, suddenly we're demonetized by YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, I've got an explicit tag. I can say whatever the fuck I want, Jacob. It's all right.
All right.
Hey, Paul from Union City Heroes joining the panel today. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great, and yeah, man, the tragedy lived up to that. That was a real edge of my seat the whole episode. I mean, so much great combat, and man, when they ratcheted up in this show, they really ratcheted up.
Yeah, there was. All right, spoiler tag. If you haven't seen the episode, go watch TikTok videos or something. Okay, if you listen past this point, it's your own fault. Yeah, so Boba Fett gets back in the armor. The child and Mando go to the top of a wrecked Jedi temple on a planet whose name I forget. The child he sends the special super phone call out to all the remaining Jedi in the galaxy, and Dark Troopers show up and steal the child, who I should be calling Grogu. Hey, there's Walt. Hey, Walt.
Hey, Walt.
Hello.
Episode directed by Robert Rodriguez, and you can tell because Boba Fett just looks amazing, kicking all that stormtrooper ass.
Yep.
And we lose a beloved quasi character in the Razor Crest. I mean, man, moment of silence, right?
Yeah, I'm still back and forth on whether joining a crew of the Slave One is an upgrade from the Razor Crest or not. Because, like, in one sense, much like the Serenity, like the Razor Crest was his home. So, like, it's like his house got blown up. But
it's
now
like our setting got blown up. Yeah.
I did feel like I heard millions of geeks cry out in anguish and then suddenly be silenced when that thing blew up.
Yep.
My son is a big Mandalorian fan. My son is 7 years old, and he loves vehicles more than almost anything in the world. So I had to do a little counseling session with Connor before we watched this show. Like, hey, you see your Lego Razor Quest? All right, we can break it apart. What can we do? We can put it back together, or we can build something better. Okay, had to go over that a few times because it was rough. Hey, Walt, joining late. Walt Rebelliard, what do you think of the show, Walt?
It was fun, and I was 8 years old again, and I loved it.
I think this is the Boba Fett scene I've been waiting to see for 40 years.
Yeah, because I mean,
the Boba Fett scene that everyone's been waiting to see for a while, because he had this mystique of being this amazing bounty hunter, and we never got to see it. I mean, he had a couple of seconds being really good fighter against Luke, and then smacked on the back of a jetpack and swallowed by a Sarlacc, and that's it.
He gets taken out like a goon, right? Like that's such a that was one of the most shocking things about Jedi. It's like, oh, that's how, like, in a goofy moment for Harrison Ford, Boba Fett is gone. Guess he wasn't cool.
Yep, and that's what this episode was really all about.
But now we get to see it. Yep.
Jon Favreau said to Robert Rodriguez, "Okay, you get to justify Boba Fett."
Yeah.
And so he did. And Boba Fett rips off, and it's no mistake that he starts without the armor, and he fights without the armor first, and then we build on that with the armor, and then he gets the armor, and he uses all the armor systems one by one, and then he goes from the armor to the ship, and that progression from being, from not having anything to going to the War Club, dude. It was Tamira Morrison.
Gaffy stick. Oh my god. Yeah.
But so the gaffy stick is that end of it. That hooked end of it is modeled after a Maori War Club, which is cool because Tamira Morrison is a Maori, and just because Tamira Morrison got cloned, there are canonically more Maori in the Star Wars galaxy than there are on our planet.
Right.
Just like there are more Klingon speakers than, various dying languages. But I don't know where to start with this one. This was really an amazing episode. Short, but wow, they really packed it.
Well, you remember that Ronin thing we were talking about with Michael Biehn? Mm-hmm. Now we know why they didn't do it, because it would have been a double beat, because they're doing it with Boba Fett.
Yeah, it was good. I was like I said, I was 8 years old again, but the savagery of Boba Fett in was just amazing because this is what we were hoping for when he showed up on screen for the first time.
Oh yeah.
So, Owen, you are a developer for a Star Wars RPG.
Indeed.
If you were going to do a take on these Dark Troopers, can I ask how you would do them?
So there are a couple of different ways that they could be planning on doing the Dark Troopers, right? Because right now, nothing from the past is canon unless Disney is using it, and then suddenly it's canon. So if they're just flying droids who are a little more dangerous and a little more accurate, that's easy to do. Some versions of Dark Troopers have also been able to turn into powered armor for their wearers, and we don't know yet if these are going to be amongst those or not. By the design, they might be, which would be another oh hell fist pump surprise moment for people that aren't steeped in the expanded universe of previous Star Wars stories. But from what we've seen so far, right, they follow orders, they fly, they can grab a baby, and while following orders, flying, and successfully grabbing a baby does put them a step above standard stormtroopers from what we have seen in Star Wars in general, that doesn't mean that they need to be anything extraordinary yet.
So we're up to flying monkeys instead of just monkeys.
Right. If I was in charge of designing or developing them right now, I would have a list of questions I would be sending to Lucasfilm for the licensing coordinator to tell me what they're doing. Or I'd say, hey, can we wait until these things do something more than 5 seconds of screen time as delivery boys? Because they're cool looking and they seem efficient. But right now, we don't know. Can they be shot more than once by a blaster bolt? Can they be formed battle armor? Are they going to end up with force powers? Is that what the entire blood thing is about? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that they could be doing with these that we just don't know yet.
So here's the riff. Robert Rodriguez took a half-hour episode, and he did 25 minutes of making somebody that just showed up in the OT for 2 minutes, who looked really cool and did nothing. He spent 25 minutes justifying that, right? Yep. And then he showed us something new that looks cool and does nothing. So I bet that will be justified later on, like that he's doing the same trick.
I would certainly not be surprised by that. I just wouldn't want to guess what direction they're going to take it till I see what direction they take it.
I'm just saying, whatever it's going to be, I'm willing to have faith in them that it will be cool.
And okay, that's funny. Whoa. Does
this Owen sound like an annoyed college lecturer right now?
There's another link that is a tenuous maybe link that might turn out to be nothing. But when the title of the episode came up, The Tragedy, my brain immediately linked to the line from the prequels, are you familiar with the tragedy of Dark Plagueis the Wise? That is a place where the tragedy has shown up as terminology in Star Wars before. And we know that there is something going on with wanting to use force powers. We know that this is a part of the Imperial Remnant. What we don't know is whether they are actually going to make this either literally or thematically tie to that Sith legend. And that's another place where I'm just interested in seeing where they go.
Yep.
It could, because there's the only other tragedy in this is that the Grogu is kidnapped and the Razor Crest is blown up. But they've had moments that bad before and not referred to it specifically as the tragedy, which just as a looking for links Star Wars geeks makes me wonder if they are alluding to some moment coming that will actually tie not just what's obviously going on with the original trilogy and the sequels, which it's obvious where they're going with that, but might tie all the way back to the prequels.
Yeah, this I was thinking about it after the fact as well, and the title is really interesting. I like your thought on the connection to the blood and the rebirth, right? Because afterwards I was like, oh yeah, that wasn't, except for the Razor Crest, this wasn't tragic, and like Grogu's been taken before, like that's bad, but that is not yeah, where was the tragedy? So
the tragedy is when he's in custody and he's mopping the floor telekinetically with those stormtroopers, and Gideon says, "Wait, let him continue to use the Force as a weapon." He's becoming darker and darker and angrier, and Gideon is feeding that. So I think, in addition to whatever horrible blood type experiments are going on, I think in addition to that, Gideon has the ulterior motive of making himself a little dark side disciple.
Totally.
Now, could we see Kyle Katarn come up in this?
We could see anything, man. They're like
theoretically,
because they go and they did Dark Troopers, they did Stormtroopers being like smacked around, much like what was happening in all of the Katarn video games. I'd be interested to see if he shows up. That would be fun.
My guess is no. And my guess is no, because it doesn't feel like Disney is doing anything else that ties to that character, even though they are borrowing other elements from those stories, which then spread well beyond there. We are clearly seeing them pick up stuff from Rebels and Clone Wars and other stuff that Disney had a recent direct hand in. On the other hand, if you had asked me, are they going to be bringing in Star Wars Kenner toys that have never appeared live action on screen before, I'd have said I don't see any sign that they're going to do that. So clearly, one of the things with The Mandalorian, this story, the story of The Mandalorian is an excuse to both have one cool character that's a new character, but also link to dozens of other things that show that there's a bigger, more important story going on in the background, and we're not actually watching it. We are seeing it happen in snapshots, sideways, from someone who is, at least at the moment, not part of that main plot of the Empire coming back, and the question of who's going to rule Mandalore, and what are they doing with the Force-sensitive blood. There's the rebels are saying there's something going on here out in the Outer Rim. We're being asked, where's Thrawn? That all clearly points to much bigger things afoot that so far the Mandalorian himself is largely oblivious to.
Yeah. Totally. We get the hints with like what's going on with the New Republic in the prison ship and our X-Wing beat cops, etc. But that's just, it's only as fans, right, that we're able to interpret what that means. And the Mandalorian doesn't even, he has no clue. As far as we know,
like as marshals, I love the casting of them as the kind of frontier lawmen.
Yeah, someone was saying, so who's going to die in the finale? Because obviously we're building up to some kind of Seven Samurai thing like we did last season, and I really don't want it to be Cara Dune because I'm really enjoying that character's arc. But I don't know. I guess Mayfeld probably makes the most sense if you're going to try to kill somebody for.
I would say more than one, and Cara Dune is first on my list just because her arc seems complete.
Yeah, it's possible. So we're going to get some other Jedi showing up, aren't we? Because Grogu did this thing with the big Jedi cell phone. So
I would imagine
he phoned home.
We're going to see at least one more, but who that is going to be will be a question mark.
It mystifies me that they've gotten this deep into Jedi and New Republic, and nobody has said the word Skywalker yet.
I don't think that's by accident. I think they're trying to steer clear.
No, it absolutely isn't. But you would think that somebody in the New Republic, given the level of heroism of Luke Skywalker, somebody would have said, hey, you should find that Tatooine kid that blew up Death Star.
The heroism of Skywalker is debatable at this point. What is known about Skywalker in this point in history is that he is the kid, he is the farm boy that whose family was killed by the Empire and was responsible for the destruction of the first Death Star. Otherwise, we have no indication that they have spread his name far and wide about, being the one who was responsible for the death of the Emperor or Vader, or that he is a Jedi Knight. They have given no indication of the myth of Skywalker being a thing at this point in history.
Ahsoka would certainly know who he is, but you can see why Ahsoka might not send anyone to a Skywalker for training.
You're right.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm going to share something. Before I share it, I want to make clear I don't believe this, but it's been out there. You guys seen this? I don't want to even call it a rumor. I just want to clickbait making the rounds.
People are always saying that.
That's CBR. I don't believe anything the CBR posts.
Yeah.
Do I think it's likely? No. Do I think that Mace Windu perfectly well could return? Look, he was alive when we threw him out a window on Coruscant, and we have perfectly well literally seen in continuity that if you throw an advanced Jedi out of a window on Coruscant, he's perfectly capable of surviving. That happened in the prequels. Obi-Wan leapt out into so did Anakin, for that matter.
Everybody does. There's no peril for a Jedi there. Yeah.
So he certainly could come back. If he came back, however, I desperately hope that the writers decide why he comes back at this moment and no one's heard from him until now before they bring him back. I am personally of the opinion that one of the big problems with the sequel movies is that there were huge, important, crucial mysteries that they did not in advance decide this is why this happened, this is the answer to it. And even if you haven't decided exactly where we're going with it, you know, one of the problems with Luke Skywalker is missing is that there's still no real good explanation for why Luke disappeared, why the entire first movie was chasing him down on a multi-part hyperdrive map. It just, he became a MacGuffin, and MacGuffins work when it doesn't matter what they are or what they do. It doesn't work when they are linchpins to the stories before or after them.
Well, that's the big, one of the big issues with the whole sequel trilogy is that the idea of we'll get 3 cool people to each do an installment meant that it was totally disconnected, and then they decided to bail on that after 2 movies and go back to the first guy who had no input. Like, that's a disaster. How did nobody see that was a giant bad decision?
And I suspect no one saw that because I am firmly convinced that a lot of the best stuff in Empire Strikes Back is stuff that they made up sitting around the room when they said we're going to make a movie, right? Mm-hmm. So Empire is one of the best and most beloved episodes, and it did a bunch of things that no one had any idea that they were doing in A New Hope. So that method had worked for Star Wars, and Kathleen Kennedy was there for that, and she saw that work. So I think her assumption was, this is the way we capture the magic. Just in this case, horrifically wrong.
Yeah.
That's a nice talking out there, Joe.
First Lucas at the helm, right? Despite everything, there was still one guy who was both a creative font and ultimately the decision maker. And he made great decisions like Lawrence Kasdan, etc. But
don't forget Ewoks. That was all George Lucas.
I gotta say, the only part of the sequel trilogy that I hated, that I didn't like at all, was Episode 9. I felt like that was just a series of missed opportunities. I felt like in Episode 9, if they had followed through with what they did in the rest of the sequel trilogy, they could have made it good. Episode 7 was pretty good. It was a retread of Episode 4, but it kind of did the same things. And Finn was all right, and Rey was all right, Poe was all right, sure. And then Episode 7 did new stuff, and I was all for. And it legitimately surprised me, which was something that I did not expect from Star Wars. And then Episode 9 just didn't follow through with any of that. It was like a check swing, and
it deliberately deleted stuff from that, right? And so whenever you have that, especially like this isn't TV, this is not like you're doing this over the course of a season. These are just 3 movies and that's all we're gonna get. You got to make these decisions, and then once they're made, you got to stick with them. I don't know.
And John Boyega is in the comments saying, "Hell yeah!" I'm kidding. He's not actually. In spirit, he might be.
I love John as a person. Carrie Fisher is my personal idol, but for this trilogy, for the sequel trilogy, John Boyega has really stepped up and lived up to being Finn. He feels the need because he is a Star Wars person to do the right thing, and I think that's admirable.
Mm-hmm.
He lets the fact that he's thin. He lets the fact that he's thin motivate him to do things, which I think is cool.
What did you guys think about the return of what's her name, the sharpshooter?
I I liked every bit of it except when she showed her midsection. It was robotic. I didn't get what was going on there, but everything else I thought was good.
Well, she was shot in the gut.
So you open it up and hey, there's a scar. You open it up and hey, I'm a Tin Man now. I didn't quite get, it didn't.
Well, it's like Luke Skywalker's hand, right? Like,
yeah, it was
real on the outside, but the inside is all.
That's what it was supposed. It didn't quite work for me, but I kind of everything else, like it was all awesome. So I was like, okay, I can blow past this moment, and enjoy everything else. But
and it was again, if you remember when we were talking about the Gunslinger episode, and we were talking about Fennec, we said that was a criminal waste of Ming-Hua, or is that her name, Ming-Hua? And again, this is Robert Rodriguez. The whole thing of the episode is people say that's a criminal waste, and Rodriguez saying, "Okay, let me validate that. Let me validate, make that better."
Why do you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, and just keep in mind too that Ming-Na Wen is hope for all of us. That life does not have to stop when you're older, because she's almost 60 years old and she's still kicking ass on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that stuff. So
she is also a testament to the rejuvenating powers of longtime martial arts practice.
Yep.
She is one of those longtime martial artists that for some reason just doesn't seem to age.
She still looks as good as when I first saw her as Chun-Li in the terrible Street Fighter movie.
Oh my god!
Oh man, yeah.
Oh, now you're dialing back the Wayback Machine.
Yep.
With Raul Julia.
Yeah, she's amazing. I've loved her character in this because I can see her growing into becoming a pretty interesting character if they have her show up in more episodes, as opposed to just the bad guy of the week that she was that particular episode. I'm hoping she gets more chance to develop her character like we've seen with the others.
Yeah, it looks like what they're doing is they're making the bounty hunters into the samurai, more closely aligned with the samurai than the Jedi are, at least in their ideology. So Fennec would be, if Boba Fett is the Ronin, Fennec would be his apprentice now. And then, of course, with Mandalorian, you have Lone Wolf and Cub.
So, any ideas on where it's going from here? Just as a wrapping up thought. See you later, everyone. Thanks for coming out.
Rescue mission. Huge rescue mission.
Now it's going to be it's going to be going out and getting the team together who will be responsible for finding and rescuing the child.
So Bo-Katan has to be involved, right? Because they're tracking down Moff Gideon.
I suspect she does not have long to live.
What?
Oh man, you think? I don't know.
She, at this moment, she is. Well, I don't know how Gideon got the black saber, but she was the rightful Mandalore. She had the dark.
She had it. Yeah.
So, what I suspect is going to happen is that she's going to engage Gideon, trying to get the darksaber back, and he's going to kill her, and then the Mandalorian Din Djarin is going to engage whoever Gideon with the darksaber and win, and then final score is Din Djarin, our Mandalorian, is the rightful Mandalore.
I figured he'd be using that badass spear he just got for fighting the Darksaber.
Right. It's not a coincidence that he got an anti-Jedi weapon 2 episodes ago.
Right, of course.
Ron Fraser says they'll fail to rescue Grogu and people die. That's what I suspect.
That's a strong possibility. That is a strong possibility.
You think we end season 2 with Grogu still at Imperial hostage?
I mean, kind of like an Empire Strikes Back type ending with like, man, this was rough, huh? Our heroes are at a real low point going into season 3.
Man, I'm getting my kid a Grogu doll for Christmas. I don't want to have that happen, but all right. I guess we have to do what we have to do.
And I think the big kicker at the end, like the big reveal moment, is going to be Thrawn in some way, shape, or form. I think there's going to be some, like that time in Empire when they show the hologram of the Emperor I think there's going to be something like that with Thrawn at the end of the season.
It's possible, but I highly suspect that Thrawn is more going to be the villain for the Ahsoka series.
I kind of think so too. That seems
true,
like
and
what it was setting it up for, right? Yeah.
I have thoughts about the Ahsoka series because they're talking about a Cassian Andor series, and Cassian Andor carried the codename Fulcrum, which was Ahsoka's pet project for the rebellion.
Except
the
Cassian
Fulcrum,
Andor is dead by this time.
Right. But the fact that the Fulcrum project connects the two makes me think that series may be more generally about Fulcrum, because Cassian Andor had a very definite limited career.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think that those two might be together in a series.
Damn.
Yeah.
You know, I was building up all episode to try to make a pun about Samuel Jackson returning as Mace Windu and fighting a bunch of clones of Snoke on a ship and saying, I'm sick of all these MF and Snokes on this MF and plane. But conversation never went that way, so I didn't have to make that joke, and I think we're all better for it. So, Walt, you're looking awful philosophical there. Any last thoughts?
No, I think my favorite thing about this whole series, both last year and this year, is I love on a Monday morning, I get home from work, I sit down, I just, as I'm doing my thing to kind of finish off the night, going on YouTube and checking out the reaction videos. That just seeing that joy on people's faces of being, that 8-year-old all over again, or rediscovering a love of something that was very divisive for the last few years, because I don't even call the sequel trilogy the sequel trilogy. When people say, "Hey, did you see Force Awakens?" I said, "Oh yeah, that's a great fan film." I mean, I personally didn't enjoy them. But I really enjoy this, and I really enjoy that it is being made with such love and attention to detail that a lot of us who are Star Wars fans really appreciate. We're loving these deep nuggets that are there, and we're loving this attention to detail. And I think the technology that's being used is just unbelievable. The fact that this is 99% of this being filmed in a single room is just mind-blowing. I mean, it's just awesome.
Yeah, and you were talking about the technology and the attention to detail. So there's a map in the Mando ship when he's approaching Tython. Tython is supposed to be in the deep core, but the map shows 2 dots. It shows one towards the rim of what is presumably the galactic plane, and one towards the interior. And Fennec, when they're on Tython, says something about, the New Republic has jurisdiction over the outer rim, which doesn't make much sense but if you're enough of a Star Wars nerd to translate the Aurebesh on the Mando screen when he's approaching the planet, you'll see that it's labeled deep core and that his core started in the outer rim. And they have those levels of detail that you can nerd out on if you're weird enough to do it.
That's a speaking Elvish to enjoy Lord of the Rings a little bit more level of fandom there, and I aspire to that one day, maybe when I'm retired.
Even I can't.
Wow.
Even I can't sight read that Aurebesh. I have to have the sheet in front of me and I've been looking at that stuff for years.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we're just about to the end of the half hour. Paul, new guy. Any thoughts? Closing thoughts? Things you want to say before we wrap up?
I don't know. One question that's kind of been rolling around my head that I'd love to get feedback on is: so why didn't Boba Fett just get his armor back from Cobb Vanth? Why did he chase him all the way to Tython if that was his goal?
And why has he just been hanging out in the desert when he had a perfectly good spaceship for the last couple of decades?
Yeah. His showing up on Tython for that reason raised a ton of questions for me that I was like,
I have an answer to this question, and it's only my answer. It's not supported by anything yet. But sure. I think what happened there is that he was, because Boba Fett in the lore is a trap hunter. He is famous for setting these patient kind of very calculated traps. So I think what he did is he saw Cobb Vanth wearing the armor, and he said, "Oh, any Mandalorian that hears about that is going to come check out this yokel wearing my armor, and I will then be able to use that connection to trace back to a Mandalorian culture that I need to find."
All right, I can see that. Hey, you guys mind if I engage in some sleazy self-promotion before we wrap up?
Oh, go for it.
Okay.
Engage away.
Hey, what is this? Pew pew, bounty hunters in space.
Bounty hunters in space?
It's a cheesy little game. We put it on Kickstarter with a goal of 80, and we're almost up to 725. So, yeah, 9 more days. It's $7. It's a lot of fun, super easy to play, and give it a look.
Awesome.
And with that, thanks everybody for coming out. We'll see you next week. And to our listeners and viewers, we'll catch you next time on the BAMF podcast.